Heyo everybody, Haku here, continuing the read-through of Magical Girl Raising Project Restart, of course, Chapter 2, Bon Appetit. Now, I tried to see if I could read this without the hat, but I was like, no, if I have to, lean forward and stuff to look and make sure I'm reading everything right or whatever, because I have to lean slightly forward when, reading stuff, since it's the text, like a novel. So yeah, I was like, I'm not going to be able to do that without hair falling in my face. I'm wearing the hat. Also for this, if you are seeing this split into two parts, it's because it takes it took an hour for us to read those two 30-page parts of Snow White Raising Project, and this chapter is actually 41 pages long. So I was like, okay, let's look for a page break somewhere in the middle, or a scene break, and it looks like there is a break switching to, and of course I didn't read it, I just looked for because I can see on the side here that it's separated by characters, this outline thing, but there's a cut to Magical Daisy on page 25, so I think I'm going to read up to there, and then in the second part I'll read the rest. If you're seeing this, hopefully you're seeing it on Sunday. I'm not planning to take up 2 weeks with this, don't worry. I'm just going to post the first part Sunday and then post the second part on the normal time on Tuesday. So that way it's still just one chapter a week. It's just easier for me not having to read for over an hour. And it's easier on my computer not after having to render a video that's over an hour. So yeah, just going to split it into two shorter parts here to make it simpler. But yeah, Chapter 2, Bon Appetit. Let's start from the beginning. We have Magical Daisy. Loud fanfare resonated. The magical phone screen shone with bright colors. Jenna Psycho's dropped phone rolled across the fountain and stopped as it hit the statue of the mermaid. It fell down with the screen facing upwards. A band of light shone from the screen. It converged and created an image. The right side was black, and its left side separated by a symmetric line was white. Butterfly wing-like things sprouted from its back, growing in strips. It floated and bounced around. It was also see-through, stereoscopic. Hello, magical girls. Greetings. Good morning. Good evening. I'm the mascot character in charge of the Magical Girl Raising Project. Foul Pone. The sharp, synthetic voice sounded like a child. For some reason, that caused nausea to stir up. Magical Daisy raised her eyebrows. Genopsycho did too. At Nyan Nyan did too. Nokko-chan did too. Magical Daisy asked the nausea-inducing stereotypic image named Fal a question. What is this? What's going on? Magical Girl Raising Project is a training simulation for active-duty magical girls, as well as a sorting algorithm for new magical girl candidates. Bone. The experiences you receive in this virtual space will feed back into reality, Bone. You've all been chosen from a strict selection process to become players, Bone. Okay, so everything that happens to them here happens in reality, so that means, of course, if they die here, that happens in reality as well. Okay. So this is different than the other game in that they don't necessarily have to die, but dying is still a possibility, and we know from the writing of the first volume it's going to happen. But out of the way. Okay, virtual space. This isn't the real world? Correct. The magical trace system makes everything feel indistinguishable from reality. Plus, it produces realistic graphics as well. That's Magical Girl Raising Project's selling point, Pone. Is this really a game? It really is, Pone. No lies there, Pone. It's not just magic. It's a game made with magic, Pone. Although she was surprised, she pretended to be calm. Even though this was supposed to be a game, other than the outlandish situation they're in, reality seemed to be overflowing. The dusty moldiness of the desolate buildings, the sunlight glaring mercilessly, the feeling that they had when they hit the skeletons, the ground that she's definitely standing on, all of them seemed real. And yet, skeletons sprang out of the ground, sprawling waste spread across the horizon, buildings that had the exact same cracks. That can only ever happen in games. Hey, listen here, we never gave you our consent, you sex beast. Okay? I'm a little worried about all this. Nokko-chan and Genopsycho both got closer to their magical phones, but because the mascot was stereoscopic, they couldn't even grab his collar. He didn't even have a collar in the first place. Genopsycho and Nokko-chan had more complaints, being taken away without any warning, fighting with skeletons, being ordered to head towards this town, there was no shortage of complaints. Now, settle down and listen calmly, Pon. Even though he was being pressed, the mascot character stayed calm. His facial expressions hadn't changed. As opposed to Magical Daisy's partner mascot, Palette, a small bewildering fairy that changed expressions almost exaggeratedly, this wasn't the same kind of mascot at all. Since time is compressed, it doesn't interfere with your real lives. For now, when 3 days have passed in-game, only a moment will have passed in real life, Pon. Also, don't worry, the magical skills that you can use in real life can also be used in-game normally. There's absolutely no danger at all, Pon. Since there's no res spells, extra lives, or save points, everything ends when you game over, Pon. But don't worry, your real body will be safe and sound, Pon. I did not believe that at all. No, I get what you're saying, but why'd you force us here without permission? Well, you all know how unreasonable the Land of Magic can be sometimes, Pon. Because the Land of Magic is unreasonable, even their magic can become unreasonable too, I think. Maybe the trigger or key is to have them participate without consent, Pon. Val continued to talk about the things that he thought he knew. But since this is an official test of the Land of Magic, there's no need to worry, Pon. The area clear rewards are amazing, the participation awards are also amazing. Future generations will thank you all later, Pon. But since this is a secret game, you're not allowed to talk about it to anyone but your fellow players. But since you're all still magical girls, you've all learned how to keep secrets. It's easy, Pon. That's why you're participating now, Pon. The others like you have already started the game, Pon. Val looked at Magical Daisy, Genocyco, and at Nyan Val looked at Magical Daisy. Genocyco and at Nyan also looked at her. Nokko-chan as well. Have to protect these girls, thought Magical Daisy. Man, Daisy is just taking all this on herself. Hold on, let me grab my water and move it over here so it's easier to reach it if/when I need it. And now it seems that we're cutting over to Pechka, who is with the best girls. Pechka had decided to participate in this game that she still couldn't understand. As Pechka, there were many other things that she could be doing other than training future generations or learning self-discipline, so the circumstances of her being pulled into this game weren't convincing at all. I'm sorry, I can't do this. Even though she just wanted to lay her head down, the other three were different. Though I dislike forceful methods, if it's the Land of Magic, then it can't be helped. Curious and curiouser, but I'll accept it for now. And the reward is truly very wonderful, no? Agreed. It certainly is a sizable turn, but this doesn't seem like the Land of Magic at all. But it is very amazing. 10 billion cash for a lifetime. I can live a relaxing magical girl life. You need to rethink your life goals. Only Pechka was the one who felt like she couldn't do anything. Pechka was just a modest, introverted middle school girl. She was good at reading the atmosphere. She simply smiled, nodded, and laughed along. Well then, your party's settled, Pon. You can have up to 4 people in a party, Pon. When you're in a party, there's a lot of benefits also as to how you can use items, Pon. When you install the area maps, you can tell where your party members will be, and pass items are good for 1 use per party, Pon. The 4's line of sight intersected each other. Watching and seeing, all of them rested their eyes on Pechka. Before they even said it, Pechka knew what they were thinking. Hold on, give me just a moment. And I'll talk about this while I'm doing what I have to do here. So I'll talk about what I think, because I think it's interesting. So we see that there's going to be items. Again, that's sort of a normal game circumstance thing for them to have. And parties of 4. They said team up with up to 5 people to defeat the demon king or the demon in here or whatever. So I guess that in itself is of interest. But yeah, so that does mean since we have 16 girls, we're going to be seeing 4 teams of 4. And I said last time I thought we already had 2 of our teams, so hopefully this chapter will actually get introduced to the other 2. I know that, okay, I'm done with what I had to do. Because I know that it says on this side here with the outline, Shadow Gale, so I'm wondering, if I had to make a guess, I'd say Shadow Gale's the samurai chick. I mean, maybe, because that kind of fits with her ability, like if she can slash and it instantly cuts across long distance, that the names really usually don't have anything to do with their powers, but I mean, that could, maybe? I don't know. Let's continue on, though. This girl looks like a weakling and a coward. I don't want her in my party. And of course that's what they were thinking about Pechka. If it's okay with you, could you tell me your magical skill? Ah yes, I'm very interested in it. It seems she was wrong. Those were the actual words that came out of her mouth. I can make delicious cuisine if I wait 5 minutes. The three girls looked at each other. Pechka's chest began to hurt as she pondered the meaning of their eye contact. What are they going to do? I'm obviously useless. They're going to abandon me. Such thoughts filled Pechka's head. Party members can be changed mid-game, Pone. You can drop in and drop out whenever you'd like, Pone. The three girls looked at each other, and Clantail nodded. A team of 4 was formed. That included Pechka. Pechka felt tired of figuring out what those 3 were thinking. Okay, so one of their names is Clantail. That name fits the Deer Girl most, so I'm assuming that is Deer Girl. 2 hours later, as expected, their treatment of Pechka was rather harsh. She was just a substitute until they found a more useful magical girl, after which she'll probably just be kicked out. Even now, the 3 of them were energetic and violent against their skeleton opponents. Pechka's ability to make delicious food and her cowardice make her unsuitable for battle. The Shrine Maiden girl, Miyokata Nanako. Okay, the weeb Miko here. Miyokata Nanako, that's her name. With her yin-yang pattern hair clip, slitted red hakama, she certainly looks like someone who would have that kind of name. Definitely not trying to hide her Shrine Maiden motif. But yet, despite looking very Japanese, her personality and character paints her as someone not from Japan at all. A magical girl is cool, cute, strong. It is a well-known fact in my country. From this remark, it's clear her intonation isn't native at all. She's probably foreign. A foreigner that seems to be more Japanese than the actual Japanese. She talked proudly about how she can use animal-based magic, but unfortunately, since it's limited to biological things, skeletons didn't count, so she just beat them up. The doll magical girl, Rianetta, was not a doll-like magical girl, not a puppet-like magical girl. She was an actual doll magical girl. She had a long ribbon tie, the hems of her skirt were folded, her bonnet played in the wind, and her fighting style was that of a magnificent Lolita warrior. She observed her movements, her joints, her facial expression. All of them seemed very artificial. She doesn't seem to be on good terms with Miyakata Nanako. They often butted heads, although she seemed elegant. She had a foul mouth, plenty of sarcasm and chide remarks. Not the type that Pechka liked. Okay, so her fighting style's like that of a magnificent Lolita warrior, whatever that means. She had doll-based magic. Unfortunately, since there were no dolls around, she fought most of her enemies, just like Miyakata did. Since she fought using her spherical joints, it enabled her to attack with angles that no human should be able to bend like. She was able to attack her opponents through their blind spots, though they couldn't figure out the skeleton's blind spot. Okay, so interesting. I guess that means she can control dolls, since she can't use it with no dolls around. And on the other hand, the other can control animals, but there aren't any animals around. And I mean, since they're in a video game, does it affect game dolls and animals? I'm assuming it does, because if not, they're not going to be able to use their powers this entire time. The centaur magical girl was Clantail, though centaur isn't the right word for her. The more proper term would be non-human lower half. She became a crocodile and used her tail to whack the skeleton, then became a horse to trample them with her hooves. She picked the most useful animal for any situation, though she would often switch to a small quadrupedal animal in most situations, like a pony or a deer. When Pechka first met her, she had a better first impression than the rest. They all began to get to know each other before the in-game day was over. There's a lot I want to say about that power. First of all, that is quite the kink of a girl to be able to change the lower half to anything like that. But that pushed way, way, way to the side. I've got to question the logic here. Non-human lower half, but her lower half is technically, from what they're saying, the neck down of a crocodile or a horse or a deer. So she isn't becoming like a satyr, she's like neck up human part. Human upper body. So if that's the case, I mean, I assume that I'm looking into this way too far, and that's just the gist of it. Because I was going to say, if so, could she just transform any part of her body into any part of an animal? But no, I think that it's just not really looking at the same lower half of a body logic as I am. But yeah. Okay, day was over. Clantail was the most suited to be the leader of the three, since Miyakata and Rionetta always argued, and Pechka looked like the type that would go, I don't think I could do this. Without saying a word, and without complaining, the three of them took some distance so as to not disturb each other while beating up the skeletons in their own way. Fluid movements, flowing hair, and the fair skin peeking out of their fluttering costumes, a vanity that seemed to disappear if you touch it. Just seeing them made her sigh out, their facial features, each of their parts, the way they were arranged, it was all perfect. Pechka wrapped her arms around her knees tightly. This was the beauty of a magical girl that Pechka wanted. If I become a beautiful and cute magical girl, then the world can change. I can even make Nina Miyakun some lunch. Indeed, Chika's life changed when she became a magical girl. Before, she was always shy, and after she became Pechka, whenever she transformed, even when she's not transformed, she was able to act a lot more active and bold. Because her beauty was unique to her, she felt confident, and thus she became more bold as a result. But in this place, Pechka was just one of many magical girls. She was now an average girl compared to the others. With her sense of superiority gone, she was no longer bold. She was just Chika again. Nothing had changed. Now Pechka felt like when she was in the corner of her classroom in middle school, unreliable, left behind due to unconfidence, unable to fight, unable to refuse participating in this game, only able to half-heartedly watch the fighting from the sidelines. She saw the parts of herself that she hated. She felt helpless. The battle was over while Pechka was frightened. Dozens of skeletons were destroyed in the meantime, becoming nothing but scattering white debris. I knew it. I don't know how to do bad intonation on that. I knew it. My intuition was correct. This area contains many skeletons. Any other wondrous merits of yours that you'd like to share? Ha ha ha. Well, it is certainly not the achievement of those who did not think it firsthand. How much candy do you have? At Clantail's words, the two's argument were suspended. Miyakata and Rionetta looked at their magical phones. 17. I have 15. And I have 28. Pechka, what about you? At those words, everyone turned to face her. Pechka instinctively shrank. While slowly lowering herself, she took out her magical phone and checked her status screen. Still 0. The display of her magical candy counter still hasn't changed. What does she mean by that? If you kill enemies, then you get magical candies. That wasn't a lie, but it looks like there's variations in the numbers, meaning that it's not divided equally just because we're teammates. At the bottom of the status screen there were the names of her party members, Clantail, Miyakata Nanako, and Rionetta. Clantail thought for a while. Seems like the only one who gets the last hit gets the rewards. It certainly does look that way from the numbers, yes. But of course, why should the ones who do nothing get any compensation? Rionetta glanced at Pechka. Pechka's body shrank again. Clantail placed her hands on her chin. She looked like someone deep in thought. Our magical phones have a sharing function. Post-battle we can redistribute our candy. But why? That means those who work less get the same amount as those who work more. Oh, that's just wonderful now, is it? Let's not forget that Marxism was only popular last century. Look what happened to them. If we're only dealing with small fry like this, it might be fine. But if the enemies get even more scarce, then we'll just trip ourselves up trying to compete for the last hit. Rionetta furrowed her eyebrows. Pechka understood Clantail's theory. In RPGs, when the bosses or strong enemies come out, they usually come alone or in small numbers. In times like those, most parties usually compete against each other, troubling themselves with who should get the last hit. So dealing with a strong enemy might be a pain in that case. Greed should always be restrained. Don't you think so? Oh, shut up already. I was just looking earlier, so there's no need to... In that case, we should do this starting from the next battle. At Clantail's words, Pechka shrunk again. She wanted to disappear. According to Fall, for the time being the game would last 3 days, but would only last a moment in real life. This was called the log-in period. After that there was a log-out period of 3 days in real life, after which they would enter the game again. They'll keep repeating this process until someone clears the game. Petchka's stomach became pained. Oh, this is really cool. So we are going to get to see them outside of Magical Girl form. This is going to be good. Rionetta, is this okay with you? Reluctantly, it looked like. Rionetta nodded. There's no point in saving my candy now. Nevertheless, I have found us a suitable hunting ground. Hunting grounds. These were words that Petchka wasn't used to hearing. This was the place where monsters would spawn. Beep. At the sound of an electronic beep, a black and white sphere emerged from Rionetta's magical phone. She probably pressed the help button. Something wrong, Pone. Are the monsters that I've killed truly dead? It'd be troubling for me to find new hunting grounds every day. Monsters respawn every morning, Pone. Is that so? Well then, another question. How much magical candy would one need to level up? Since this is an RPG, I'm assuming that something like this is at play. Levels? As usual, Fowl was expressionless. Most of his expressions can be gathered from the tone of his voice. It seems he was surprised at that specific question. This game has no leveling system, Pone. Huh? The candies are used in shops to buy items, Pone. It's this world's currency, Pone. Though there may be certain exceptions where you might use it in places other than shops, for now it's used in shops to buy items, Pone. Of course, there's no real-life transactions, Pone. Shops. They exist here. What, you didn't notice the shops back in town, Pone? Petchka, Nako, Rionetta, and Clantail. The four of them looked at each other. They sell a lot of useful items, so please do give a look, Pone. By the way, the grassland area was unlocked earlier. Please do head over there at your convenience, Pone. Area unlocked? What do you mean by that? Other players cleared this area's mission and opened the gate to the next area, Pone. You should be relieved, Pone. Even if other players unlock it, you can proceed too. But since the area clear missions have rewards, I suggest you try to compete. Fall's words were interrupted halfway. Rionetta already released the help button. The other players were already ahead of them. Not only that, there were apparently shops back in town. They didn't even realize that magical candies were currency. Apart from Petchka, the other three's facial expressions seemed impatient. For now, let's head back to the town. After confirming the shop, we'll proceed to the grassland area. Okay, right now, favorite character is Clantail. I think it's really cool getting to learn more about the game and the rules and stuff. I'm glad there's no leveling system, because that seems like it could have been kind of broken and hard to write. So I do like that we don't have that. And I like that there's this system of shops and items and everything, sort of, kinda-ish similar to the items probably from the first, except you're not giving up years of your life, of course, but similar to items probably from the first game. So, yeah, we'll see. At Clantail's words, everyone nodded. Now we have a cut. Okay, so, yeah. Anything else that I wanted to say about the scene? I like what we learned here about the magical candies and everything. Ooh, I really like that we're going to have the jump back and forth for 3 days in the game, 3 days out of the game. I like that. So yeah, let's move on. Shadow Gale. The Black Nurse... okay, so Shadow Gale is actually the Scissors Girl. What was it that... was it Tatsuki that I think Andrea had commented. So the Black Nurse, Shadow Gale, had a wrench on her right hand and scissors on her left. She placed both of them in her waist holders. Even in this abnormal situation, she bitterly smiled as she performed something a magical girl would do. She placed her hands on her forehead to wipe the sweat, but there was not a single one there. Battle's over. Okay. The magical girls have physical capabilities beyond the limits of life. Like Shadow Gale, even if she can't use her magic for combat, she can fight with her strength alone. However, in real life there's no opportunity to use her magical girl strength to their full extent. Even now, her legs didn't cower and her body didn't shake. She was surprised that she could fight so normally. She knew better than anyone that she had no fighting experience at all. Perhaps because her opponents weren't human, they were clearly not, judging from their forms. Perhaps because of that, they were easy to beat down. In her surroundings there were red-colored bones scattered around. As I thought, they were just normal skeletons. Their color's different, but they're the same nonetheless. They're no match for the superheroine Masked Wonder. The masked magical girl raised her right arm, bent her left arm in front of her chest, and she opened her legs wide. This was her victory pose. Okay, she bent her left arm in front of her chest, raised her right arm, opened her legs wide, victory pose, as she called it. Even though she met her after the game, she still didn't want to ask her what exactly her victory pose meant. You okay? Shadow Gale anxiously asked her while doing her victory pose. There was a bump in the head of Masked Wonder. It was swollen red and looked a bit painful to see. This wound isn't enough to defeat Masked Wonder, but it does hurt a bit. It doesn't seem like you were attacked by the skeletons. Why were you injured, I wonder? With a worried look on her face, the wheelchair magical girl, whose arms and neck were covered in bandages, asked her, Okay, so she is really, really beat up. For she also wanted to know what happened. When I threw a stone at one of those skeletons, I heard a crack and got hurt, though I don't think I was caught by surprise either. Perhaps they had some special abilities. It might be worth purchasing the monster picture book in the Grassland shop. Its price increased, but I believe it's an investment. It's also not that far. Oh, so they're maybe the team that's already made it to the Grasslands. They know what's in the shops and everything. So they're already just grinding on these new skeletons. Okay. What the wheelchair magical girl said was right. She urged them to look at their magical phones. Shadow Gale confirmed her magical candy numbers. 56. 87. The masked magical girl, Masked Wonder, shouted out in a surprised voice. Even though this girl could always find the time to do that pose of hers, every time she killed a skeleton, she still had more candies than Shadow Gale? With this amount, we should be able to purchase a variety of things in the shop. Wow, but they're not really so different than the white ones. Is that this isn't a mistake, is it? We've only recently entered the Grasslands area, so I imagine the enemies here might be stronger, though possibly not in strength. Either way, we should prioritize opening more areas. The wheelchair magic. What is this name? I can't keep reading. Damn. I can't stop laughing whenever I see that. The wheelchair magical girl full nodded to herself as she said these things. Well then, let's use the map. Find the Grassland town and return there. Okay, so they have a map. Full rolled away in her wheelchair, silently urging them to follow her. Shadow Gale and Masked Wonder followed quickly behind. Okay, so we at least have a team of 3 here. My eyes are watering, damn it. Full hasn't changed. Ever since she paired up with Shadow Gale in the real world. Okay, so they know each other in the real world. And do they know Masked Wonder in the real world too? Because of what they said earlier with they had already met him in the real world, or they met him after this in the real world. I'm just going to keep reading before I keep wondering. Where was it? Full hasn't changed ever since she paired up with Shadow Gale in the real world. Nothing has changed. She thinks what she's doing is for the sake of others. That's why she has the self-centered thoughts that others would naturally obey. She's arrogant and selfish. Wherever Momori Totoyama was, there was always Konoe Hitokoji. Even after becoming magical girls, that hasn't changed. Momori Totoyama became the magical girl Shadow Gale, while Konoe Hitokoji became the magical girl Ple. Shadow Gale was always watching over Ple's back. Okay, although Momori's respect, love, and obsession, such things were never sworn by her name. Konoe always stood above others. When she chased away enemies, she did so sadistically. She thought of anyone but her close family as tools or slaves, and yet she seriously believes she's elegant, kind, and loved. Okay, so Ple is really arrogant and stuff, and even outside of this, she's always had Shadow Gale completely devoted to her. And I think that kind of has to do with the injured and nurse sort of pairing. And also, I didn't think from the design, I couldn't tell she was a nurse, but now I can kind of see it now that I know. Yeah. Okay? As Momori kept watch over Kanoe, closer than anyone, she eventually got tired of thinking she's horrible. Even so, Momori must stay by her side. The Hitokoji family is a rich and wealthy family whose wealth had accumulated over the generations, becoming fatter and fatter like a monster. The golden statues used for the garden stones were worth far more than a salaryman's lifetime earnings. The closest building to get from town is the Hitokoji Manor. The bus station stopped in front of Hitokoji Manor. The kids who threw stones to vandalize the Hitokoji Manor had their parents moved the very next day, and Momori Totoyama's family. Her family has served the Hitokoji family for generations, the origin of Momori's name, Japanese for protect, in order to be able to protect her lady more than anyone else. And thus, she stood behind Kanoe as a protector. The adults would disapprove if she didn't like it. So, I think either she's going to end up dying for Kanoe to become a good guy, or she's going to end up betraying her and massive swerve. Let's keep going, though. While standing behind her, she was told by them to praise Kanoe. The people who met the Hitokoji family would often praise them, although only 40% of them were truly praised. At their private girls' school, Kanoe excelled at both academics and sports nationwide. Though she didn't play any specific sports, she kept her mind and body in top condition. 8 out of 10 people would always look at them with glanced looks whenever they passed by. Kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school. Kanoe was always at the center of it all. Naturally, Momori was also brought along. However, since she was a child, she was taught that it was normal to serve the Hitokoji family. Since then, she began to see her parents and herself cynically. Even after becoming a magical girl, this hasn't changed. Fleur would give orders, and Shadow Gale would say, yeah, with mixed sighs. When they first entered the game, the first thing Fleur ordered was, bandage me up. Since Shadow Gale had a nurse motif, her costume naturally had plenty of bandages inside them. There are 2 kinds of magical girls, combat magical girls and non-combat magical girls. Although she was not injured, Fleur made herself look like an injured person. It goes without saying that her wheelchair appearance made her seem like a sickly girl. Combat magical girls will attract trouble, though since anything can happen, I'd like to keep one handy. We both lack the talent for violence, so why the bandages? To some, they have a desire to protect the weak. Thus, if an infant, elder, pregnant woman, or sickly person comes along, they will show compassion and be compelled to protect them. Okay, so we obviously see that this plan worked, because neither of them are that great at fighting, so they ended up getting Masked Wonder to come in, essentially doing the fighting for them, and protecting them because she looks injured and sickly. Compared to Shadow Gale, who was still wondering why they were being attacked by skeletons, it seems Fleur had already begun to plan ahead. When you defeat monsters, you gain items, but first you had to head towards the city, probably because this feels like an RPG. It seems she was busy messing with her magical phone. She even thoroughly investigated the insides of the buildings, and found various hints there. Was this a game world? If this was a game world, then they're not the only players. If there were other players, were they other magical girls? If there were other magical girls, were we competing against each other? Perhaps it was due to those thoughts that she chose to wrap herself in bandages, so she would present herself as a sickly person, hoping that a kind-hearted combat magical girl would notice and feel compelled to protect the weak. All of those things were what Shadow Gale had imagined had gone on in Fleur's head. Fleur wasn't the kind of person who would carefully... I hope they make a second season of the anime just to see how they pronounce that name, who would carefully explain her inner thoughts. Kanoe Hitokoji would probably be the type of person who would use people's goodwill for her own intentions while feeling nothing but indifference. And then she caught one. Masked Wonder, dressed in a purple cloak and a skin-tight suit, wearing a black mask that only showed her blue eyes, and although her golden hair that shined under the bright sunlight wasn't really the sign of an American comic book hero, her large voice and her rough body that stood out was clearly the sign of an American hero. Her rough body? That, I don't know what that means, but that could mean quite the good-looking Mahou Shoujo. Either way, we'll see. I'm too scared. Once I finish reading this, I will be looking up fan art of all these characters, but I'm too scared to right now because I don't want any to get hit with any spoilers, you know what I'm saying? Either way, continuing to move on. This incarnation of justice will accept no evil. Tell me, friend, tell me, are you friend or foe? Flea had ordered her to push her wheelchair, and they had a loud voice from above a building. When they looked up to see who it was, the person had jumped off. She bent her knees, landing on the ground, dust blowing behind her from the impact. She raised her right arm, bent her left arm in front of her chest, opened her legs wide, and shouted in a large voice, "My name is Masked Wonder. I am the embodiment of justice, a magical girl." Realizing that this was, in fact, her self-introduction, Flea spoke as if nothing happened. "My name is Flea. This is Shadow Gale. A pleasure to meet you, Masked Wonder. It seems you've been injured. Did the skeletons do this?" So it was your voice they called out. I'm very grateful for your kindness. You have my thanks." "No thanks needed. A superheroine will always help those in trouble." And so, they got the assistance of Masked Wonder, who always helps those in trouble. Flea had achieved her original purpose. Shadow Gale thought to herself, "Society seems to be very convenient for villainous people." Afterwards, they arrived in town and formed a party with each other. They completed the Area Clear event and unlocked a new area. They then arrived at that new area, the grassland area. The mission to clear the wasteland area was to walk from one edge of the wasteland to the other. The reason their team cleared it so fast was because of Flea. Flea's magical skill was, obviously enough, her magical wheelchair. The wheelchair that she controls was capable of reaching speeds that would cause shockwaves to form. That dramatically shortened the time required for them to clear the event. So she has top speeds power, pretty much. Except not flying, she's just super fast wheelchair girl. What a goofy power. Continuing. What would have taken hours of time only took 20 minutes. And this whole group is just really, they don't seem like they're as weird and goofy as they are, I guess, but they're just such an odd team. What would have taken hours of time only took 20 minutes. In the meantime, Shadow Gale and Masked Wonder went around all the wasteland area collecting magical candy. Flea was supposed to be an injured person, yet she's leaving dust trails as she traveled in tremendous speed. As for Masked Wonder's thoughts, it's great that she's healthy again. They seem to be favorable. I love Masked Wonder so much. I was not I think she had my least favorite design, but now I freaking love her. She still isn't Clantail level. But let's continue on. We got Magical Daisy here. Magical candies in this game world have the same function as currency. You receive them by killing monsters. This means that it's encouraged to kill monsters to collect magical candy. More than anything, it's better to own a lot for now, because of its usefulness. That was what Fall had explained. But the name of the magical candies themselves were something that Daisy and nokko-chan thought sounded very familiar. And so they asked Fall. There was a test in another district, Pone. Whenever the magical girls there worked to help people, they would earn magical candies depending on how much they helped. Pone. Basically, it was a way of quantifying the good deeds of those magical girls, Pone. Apparently, it was a bit too systematic. Those magical girls didn't seem to have any fraternity or friendship. Due to some inner rebellion, it became obsolete in the testing stage. Now, they're only reusing the name. That makes sense. Perhaps Daisy's heard of the event somewhere before. Daisy is, catching on. Like every other place in the game, the shops were uninhabited. There were various healing items and preserved food on display at a menu. Magical Daisy pressed the help button and called Fall. What's this pass item? It looks like we can buy it for 5 magical candies. You need passes if you want to move from one area to another, Pone. You only need 1 pass per party, Pone. Effective until the next dawn, Pone. So, everyone good with buying a pass? The 3 girls nodded. Magical Daisy pointed at the pass listed in the menu. There are hidden hunger parameters in-game, Pone. Unfortunately, even though you're magical girls, in-game you'll need to eat, Pone. Please do eat so that you don't get hungry, Pone. So, Tetsuka has a use. As soon as Fall mentioned that, Daisy really did feel hungry. It's been a few hours since they first entered the game. Since there's no clock, and the temperature and weather is also unnatural, the passage of time has felt weird. Oh, and what's this R thing? Most items have names: large health potion, small health potion, preserved food. Although Daisy could understand the contents of an item by looking at its name, the item marked R was the only mystery. It wasn't just the mysterious name, but the jump in price was expensive as well. For preserved food, you get to buy 1 food per 1 candy. For a large health potion, you can buy 1 for 20 candies. This one needs 100 candies. Oh, that's the random item pone. Sometimes you can get ridiculously rare items pone. Oh, said someone in a raised voice. If Daisy had to guess, it's probably Psycho. Aha, as I expected. Gachas are an essential part of this kind of game. You seem excited, Rue. If you don't get the item you want, you'll continue on with the gacha endlessly until you notice you're in a nightmare of debt. Then you get important calls from your job urging you to hurry up. That doesn't seem exciting at all, Rue. Don't you get it? That's the whole point. Ah, my inner collector has been awakened. But we don't have enough candies. As Nokko-chan said, they didn't have enough candies at all. Adding up all 4 of their candies made 20. They still need 80 more to buy the R item. Too bad. Those games can be really fun, you know. Since we're having a promotional opening campaign pone, the first purchase will only cost you 10 candies pone. The eyes on the back of Psycho's visor felt like they're gleaming. All right. What are we waiting for? Come on, let's do it now. Now. But isn't it better to buy healing potions and food, Rue? We can buy it with our surplus money. If we don't do it here and now, we'll lose out completely. Eventually, they give in to Psycho and the R item as a result, a map. And bought the R item as a result, and the result, a map. That map was then installed into their magical phones as an application. The town, the area, and their current locations were displayed. If they're registered as party members, they could also view their teammates' locations as well. Psycho puffed up her chest. See, we got some convenient items. I told you it'd be useful, she said with pride. At Nyan cautiously suggested that they collect more info, while Psycho boldly suggested that they explore the new area. Whatever Daisy decided, Nokko-chan would follow along. Finally, Daisy concluded, let's go out and explore the new area. What I would do is go out there to where the skeletons are, Daisy beam, beep, all over the place, make a ton of magical candies just to be stacked and prepared. But either way, ever since Daisy decided to participate in the game, she noticed that she's been playing the role of leader. Although back then she thought she wasn't good at being relied on, perhaps it was better if she hadn't noticed. Although she wanted to proceed carefully, there was nothing more for them in the wasteland. By participating in the game and playing the leader role, she wants to play to win, which means they had to go forward and increase their progress. On the way, they took care of the many skeletons that tried to stop them. They followed the map being displayed by their magical phone. There was something built that stood out in the rocky fields, like an Edo period structure. It was a timeless wooden gate. The wasteland had turned into a vivid grassy area with ankle-length grass breathtakingly blowing in the wind. Vivid green spread out all over. The lush green soil was much easier on the eyes than the wasteland area was. It seems that the sunlight was also weaker here and the temperatures also lower. Well, the size of the area still not changed, huh? Psycho bent her waist, eyes on her visor. She looked around everywhere. Aside from the gate behind them, the horizon stretched out as far as the eye could see. It was easier on the eyes than the wasteland area. It seems they were a bit tired from just standing here. Where's the nearest town? Nokko-chan called up the map with her magical phone. The town's good and all, but we still need to earn money. Psycho repeatedly shuffled and punched as if she was shadowboxing. It seems like the gates open when you complete the area clear event, Fall also said. There are rewards with that, right, Rue? Nyan said while crouching down and observing the grassland area. It seems that everyone seems to be a bit troubled. Earning money is important. It's almost the same as Magical Daisy, who was forbidden to fight. Although the skeletons are emotionless and unresponsive, they're perfect for Daisy to let out the frustrations of her everyday life. The nice thing about being in a game is that it's ethically okay to do murderous techniques. Of course, events are also important. In order to fight stronger opponents, they'll have to go into further areas. They had to actively arrive in new areas before other people do in the first place. That was probably the purpose of the game. Magical Daisy's principles on battling was because it's fun, isn't it? Fighting? The nice thing about this game world is that she can fight as much as she wants without anyone forbidding her. She wanted things to stay this way. Alright, let's head to the city first. We might be able to find hints on the area clear events there. We might also find some good hunting spots. Odd that Daisy, I guess it fits with her power, the Daisy Beam, that she finds fighting fun and stuff like that. And then moving on. Steam break, let me grab some water. When they entered the new area, a new area map was immediately displayed. They immediately knew where the town was. It was a very useful map. It was worth Genocyco's excited shouting. Alright, let's head to the grassland town. They began to walk, and not 5 minutes later... Oh, red. Wow, pretty grotesque. Did they enter a monster spawning ground? Many skeletons crawled out of the ground, but these skeletons, unlike the white ones in the wasteland area, were dyed a stunning red. Skeleton Mark II, huh, Rue? Palette swapping just to reduce memory, huh? Pretty embarrassing for a magically made game. Everyone, chin up. New areas may mean stronger enemies. Don't be so quick to judge by their appearance. Genocyco brought her visor down. At Nyan stood in a Chinese fighting pose. Nokko-chan held her ribbon-decorated mop. Oh, Nokko-chan, you poor little cupcake. Poor Nokko-chan. They already had a plan for dealing with monsters. Firstly, Genocyco with her lowered visor. Genocyco's magical skill is her invincible suit, according to Genocyco herself. Not even a supernova can pass through this baby. So long as her visor was down, it seems like no attack can affect it. I wonder if my Daisy Beam could. Man, some dark thoughts there. The thought passed through Daisy's head, but she didn't say it out loud. Magical Daisy was an adult magical girl. She shouldn't think of such things. Genocyco marched on, kicking and punching and rampaging towards the enemy. The ray gun in her waist seems to only be decorative, since she doesn't seem to use it. Genocyco was the first meat shield. What kind of attacks will the enemy make? How strong will they be? She checked every possibility one by one. Oh, it's all right. They're not really that different from the white ones. After a report, Nyan flew in and kicked the skeletons, while Nokko-chan wildly swung her mop, crushing the cranium of the skeletons. Nokko-chan! No, you cute little thing. Naturally, Magical Daisy didn't stand still either. Roundhouse kick, palm strike, front kick. She hit the skeletons with every move she's trained with before. Okay, we're getting an illustration here. Is it going to be all four of them? Let's see what we have. We see hello at Nyan. Thick tail, best tail. Poor Nokko-chan, just see her face in the background. Then, see Genocyco. And, Daisy in the background as well. Man, I love the characters already. I mean, just like the, first season, of course, the first arc. In the blink of an eye, all the skeletons were shattered. There was only one left. Everyone, stand back. I'm gonna do it, my death blow. She confirmed that everyone stood far away. Magical Daisy pointed at the skeleton and shouted out. She could have attacked normally, but there are fans around her, so this is fan service. She had to finish the fight with her death blow. It was her magical girl namesake, Daisy Beam! Beep. A yellow beam hit the skeleton's body directly. She expected its spine to shatter, its ribs to fly, and its bones to scatter. Man, that rhyming there. But the skeleton walked around like nothing happened. Nyan jumped in, hitting its heel, waist, and neck one after the other. She crushed the skeleton's entire body. Genocyco screamed. For some reason, she couldn't hear her voice. Something came up from behind her throat. She spat it out. It's a warm liquid. She could see the sky, fair and blue. There was nothing but the sun. Something hit Magical Daisy's back. Magical Daisy saw her belly. It was stained red. Blood flowed without stopping. Her heart beat strongly. Magical Daisy lost consciousness. What? So, did Magical Daisy just die already? And that's where I'm going to end it and record the rest probably tomorrow. Waiting until tomorrow to read the rest of this. What? Did Magical Daisy just die? Well, I mean, she's so OP, but this seems way too early. What? Okay, where I am right now, though, before I finish this half and move on to the second half, what I'm thinking about characters right now, favorite character, I think favorite character is Clantail. Then below Clantail would be, I think kind of a 3, I don't know. I guess I like all of them. I like Nokko-chan a lot. Maybe Nokko-chan would be up there, because Nokko-chan is just, poor little Nokko-chan just trying to fight with her mop and everything. I really like Masked Wonder. Masked Wonder I like a lot. Then at Yan I enjoy Jenna Psycho a lot. Daisy is cool, Petchka's okay. The wheelchair girl's okay, but everyone loves her, so I'm assuming she must get better in the future. I really like the nurse, though. I really like her. I don't totally trust that she's not going to just betray them and do some sketchy stuff now that she has the ability to in this game. But we'll see, we'll see. Then, who else? Oh yeah, Weeb Miko. And, I forget the 2 names. I'll remember it, of course, when I continue reading. But, the Weeb Miko and the dog girl. They're really cool as well. So yeah, I'd say top 3 right now would actually be Masked Wonder, Nurse Girl, and Masked Wonder, Nurse Girl, and Clantail would be top 3. And then maybe if I had to round out a top 5, I would throw in I guess maybe Nokko-chan and Jenna Psycho, but I feel bad not putting Weeb Miko up there as well, or Doll Girl up there, or at Yan. But either way, like I said, I'm just gonna make the exit to this quick, because I'm gonna do the second part, hopefully Tuesday, same day as this normally comes out. So either way, if you did like the video, comment down there, tell me what you thought of first part of this chapter, what you thought of my thoughts and reaction to it. Subscribe for more Magical Girl Raising Project and more. Follow on Twitter if you want. Try to keep updated there and stuff with the channel. That's it. Thank you once again for watching. I'll see you all next time.